my name is Samuel, as you can read below. My name is Samuel. I'm the head of sales of VASS Switzerland, and I'm together with Sofiane, my colleague. Sofiane, also, what is your main expertise?
So, hi everyone, I'm Sofiane, and I'm a MarTech consultant here in VASS Switzerland.
Great.
That's my main.
Exactly. And obviously, we are both MarTech enthusiasts. I mean, we like to speak about MarTech, building MarTech stack, speaking about AI, speaking about SEO, GEO. Today, it's, as Sofiane said, to be more about growth and optimization. So let's get started. Sofiane, maybe you can share your slide because you will be the one speaking the most today. And also, don't hesitate in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of this webinar. So yes, so the topic today is about turning content into growth. Quick note to all of you watching us right now on LinkedIn, on Zoom, or maybe if you are watching us, it's a replay on YouTube. This webinar is part of a series about digital experience platform. So we did over the last 4 months 4 webinars. The first one was about how to create content at scale. The second one was how to orchestrate the publication of your content. We had a customer who joined this webinar, a Swiss insurance company. The third one was about a specific new tool of Adobe that is called Adobe Edge Delivery Services. So if you don't know yet this new CMS, have a look, because it might be quite helpful for your team to be able to scale your content production, and especially with this, with this AI search everywhere, you need as well CMS that produce content that is light and easy to read by AI. And so, as we said, today is our last webinar of the year, and we're really happy to do that with you today. Sofiane, I did my introduction. I think now it's your turn.
Hey, thank you, Samuel. So let's go. So far, we've seen everything about the content workflow, from ideas to how to write it, how to optimize it, and how to put it live on your website. And the main question we have is what's next? So once you publish your article, once you click publish, what is happening? And this is where, for me, that the whole journey begins. However, when we talk with our clients, most of them are telling us that they're spending most of their time creating content and creating new kind of content, and only 20% optimizing their current content. And I think it's always surprising because creating content for me is so difficult. It's required to come up with new ideas, new ways, and you have to do the research when optimizing its way and straightforward. And it's also driving new problem. So creating new content is about adding more and adding more content, but also it's getting more difficult to understand what kind of content is good, what kind of content is great, but also what kind of content drives conversions. It's also about the amount of work that goes behind just the word that we push online, meaning I talked about it already, research, but also editorial, illustration, and everything that goes with just what we want to share with the world. And at the end, it's about new content which grow organically about new topics, and it ends up with content and a lot of content. At the end, when we talk with our clients, the same question come back is, I have no idea about the content ROI. And this is a question that we ask all the time. And we kind of know that it's very difficult to understand if you're not focusing 100% on it. But it's also a big element to understand. If you don't know your content ROI, it will be always very difficult to demonstrate it to your stakeholders and to have a conversation about, hey, do we have even content that drive growth or not? And once we talk about that, we also got some other numbers, and we went a little bit that rabbit hole, and we understood that 83% of all marketing leaders struggle with demonstrating ROI, not just for the content, but overall. But and the one that are able to do it can have much better result than the one that are not doing it or not even focusing on it. At the end, it's always come back to two things when we talk about marketing: generating links and making sure that we can show the impact of our work. And measuring ROI is one of the most important parts. So here we will discuss for the next 30 minutes plus the question and answer at the end. It's about how do we optimize content, not just create, but optimize content in order to maximize content ROI. And by content ROI, overall, we are talking about marketing ROI. So let's jump right in. Samuel, feel free anytime to interrupt me if you have any question.
Sure,
Otherwise,
I will interrupt you, don't worry.
Yes. So a little bit historically, when we are talking about content for the web, what we're talking for a very long time, and this is something I've observed when I'm working with my clients, is before when we were talking about content, it was mostly from marketing brochure. And since the World Wide Web appears and companies and businesses started to have their website, they decided to just switch on and take that marketing brochure content and create blog posts. The thing is, it's something they do every year, and over time it grows and it grows, and at the end we get a lot of content. We have content from any other topics, and we have probably the same kind of content year over years with small adaptation or small modification. It's not rare that when we talk with our client that we see thousands and thousands of pages of content that are accessible, available on the internet, and they have not been updated for 10 years, and they are just forgotten by our clients and by the content team. Now, if I am a business and if I'm thinking on how do I maximize my content ROI, there is some question I might have, which is how do I see content, or is it even the effort I want to do? Do I want to create more and more content over a year in order to have every topic, every piece of information available? Or do I want to focus on some pieces of content that are working, that our clients, our users are looking for, and try to optimizing time over time? So I will assume that you already answer in your head, but when we are showing that to most of the people we are working with, they are always telling us, oh, yeah, of course, I want to focus on some content pieces that are working and I would love to rework them, but I don't know where to start and I don't even know which one are there and I don't know how to do it. So this is exactly what we are tackling today. So another big piece is maybe also the mindset shift that we will have to do. Like we've seen it, most of the people, and probably you and myself included, when we are thinking about content, we are mostly thinking about creating new piece of content. I get it. It's exciting. It's what's drive us. It's about writing new perspective. But if we are thinking about ROI, most of the time it will make way more sense to spend a little bit less time creating content and way more time optimizing the current content that we have and making sure that it stayed up to date and we still answer our user clients question time over time. So let's go back to our main question. How do we optimize content to maximize ROI and marketing ROI? So in order to do that, we have three simple steps that we use, and you will see they are probably the same step that you might think when you are trying to tackling a marketing ROI problem, and this is just adapted to the content. We are doing that because we believe that yeah, you already have the assets, you already have the ideas. Now it's time just to optimize it and making sure that you can deliver for your clients the best way possible. So what we do is before even starting to optimize or rework something, we need to understand the content performance. And you will see that we are looking at from different perspectives in order to make sure that we get the right insights before starting to even do any kind of work on the article or on the page we want to optimize. Once we understand how to optimize it or what is the performance of the current content, we can start rework the content. And this is where people believe it's a lot about putting new information and again, when actually it's about making sure that we prioritize the right kind of content to rework and making sure that we just optimize to keep it updated based on how we want to share it with the user. And finally, one single step that most of the content team are, I think, under delivering on it is about redistribute or even recycling your content. So what we see a lot with our clients is when they create or even rework one piece of content, they will share it once, maybe on the newsletters, maybe on their social media, maybe on LinkedIn to be more specific, and then they will just forget about it and they will assume that everyone's read it, went through it, acknowledge it, and then they will spend their time just reworking the next piece of content. Here we will see that sometimes one piece of content can be redistributed, but also recycled into other format for other audience and so on. So that will be our third point today. Let's go. Let's start with the first point, which is about understanding content performance. And for that, I will just take a small use case, which is one of the blog article that we created for our series. And this is a typical blog article where I put some analytics on it. And as you can see, from there, I can see that on average, the time spent on page is around 3 minutes, which is a very important metrics to track probably. But what does it mean? What does it mean? Is it good or is it bad? Does it mean that people are spending some time reviewing the content, or does it mean that they are lost and they don't know what to do, or I don't know? And this is the problem that we want to highlight about understanding content is to understand the content that you publish online, you need to have different perspective, because from one perspective you can have one story, but if you have different perspective, then the story can change. And it works the same with your content. If you just have one perspective, you might have to take some decision or assume some insight about your content without having the full picture represented in front of you. So that's one of the first learning is you cannot make insight from one source of data. You will need probably more the data points and data source, and this is why with most of our users we are using the triangulation framework. A triangulation framework is just for us a guarantee that we will not look at the users that are browsing or looking at our website just from one perspective. So we are not just looking at what they are doing on the website. We are looking at three different perspectives. One is how they search and how they arrive to the website, to the web page. We are looking at what do they say about the website and the content, and of course we are looking at what do they do on the page. And this is where normally most of the analytics will happen. Here, what we decided is we cannot, from one perspective, understand everything. So let's have different source in order to make the best decision and the best insight out of it. So what does it look like more specifically? Let's start with a search. So first, we are looking at what the user search. The typical use case can be we are looking at how they arrive on the website, and we are looking at the type of keywords they will put on the search on their search engine. And in the example here, I'm using Google and Google Search Console. Also, the behavior feedback, what does the user do, and we will see the kind of analytics we can go through. And finally, the direct feedback. So now let's quickly deep dive into what the user search. So when the user is searching for your content, you will see that there is different ways to look at it. There is keywords that they can use, directly typing into the search engine like Google, but also we can look at questions. And this is way more important. And question is way on the rise, thanks to also AI search engine, so like ChatGPT. You will see I will use different terms to address AI search at the moment, because there is different ways. There is the AEO, GEO, whatever names it is. I would try to stay to AI search just to simplify it. But also we can see that there is something that is coming and popping up more and more, and where Samuel is quite an expert in it, which is around topics. And we can look at how people are arriving to our website through those different things, keywords, questions, and topics, in order to have a better representation. Of course, we can also looking at look for new trends and how one keyword can grow compared to other keyword. And this is where it's starting to get interested if we want to make sure that our articles stay relevant in time. So this is what. Yeah.
If I can summarize here, just to say it with my own word.
Yes.
Basically, well, what you explain is that there is different way to define how to prioritize content, content refresh, and one of the elements, maybe I'm wrong, and let me know if I'm wrong. One of the key elements for you is that to see how people are finding your website,
Yes.
how people are searching and ending up on your website,
Yes.
and also understanding the trends. So based on this key information, you could define what content already existing on your website should be refreshed because there is a demand, right?
Exactly.
So I understood everything. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, you're so smart, Samuel. Thank you. So here we are still trying to understand what are the best pieces of content, and like we said, we are looking at different perspective. One of the first perspective is how people search, and if I'm moving on, we can also look at how people behave on the website. And this is where normally we will have the classical analytics tool like the web event on looking at how people interact with some elements on the web page. But we can also have heat map, which is a more visual way to see where people are moving or clicking on the page. And of course, we have also things like screen recording, where a session is anonymized and recorded, just to help us to better understand how a user can interact or use the page. And that's also a way to look at it on what the user is exactly doing on the page. So first we look at how do they search and how do they arrive on the page. Then we look at what do they do on the page. And this is already giving us way more perspective on, okay, is the page good? Is the content good or not? If we are not fully satisfied or confident enough, we can move to what the users say. And this is something we don't see a lot in our clients, and we always recommend it, is to get also direct feedback from the users. So here we can look at adding some survey on page, where we ask the user if they find the right information, or if the content is helping them to make a decision, for example. But also we can look at the different comment analysis and look at maybe the comment section of our article, of our page, and look at, did we provide any support? Did we provide something interesting for the user at big scale?
Sophia, I think this is really interesting, like understanding what user says about your brand, especially, I mean, right now, as you said, with AI search, visibility and brand mention is really key. So I think it's important to understand the sentiment of how your users speak about your brand. Is there any other kind of source of information that a company can leverage to also collect this feedback? Do you have idea to share?
So if we are talking about on page or on the content, there will be probably other sources we can look. But sometimes we don't need to. If we are talking about a brand, we can look above and beyond. We don't have to just looking at the comment section, but maybe we can look at customer feedback, or even sales conversation that we can have outside of the company and see how the brand is perceived, and use those elements, those insight that we can gather, and then try to also reuse for our content.
Yes,
Yeah.
I also would like to add other sources that I
Mhm.
think can be quite interesting, especially for banks and insurance company. Uh,
Mhm.
but overall, for any company, I would like to say, but call center or chatbot
Yes.
that are
Yeah. Very good.
that
Yeah.
are more or less the same. Just basically, a chatbot is automation of a call
Oh.
center. But also, I think some companies, I mean, of course, it's popular for a while to have chatbots on your websites. Now, with the advance of AI, it's even better because you can have a natural conversation with this chatbot. But what companies I think are missing here is huge data, because you need to collect as well the chat and try to identify the topics that your customer are asking to the chat, and obviously categorize them. But it's also a key source of information. And also, why not the call center calls, recording them, understanding what's the main topic, because again, it will give us insight about what is the demand, and then coming back to what Sofiane said about how to define which piece of content to refresh, basically what is important in the eyes of your customer.
Yes. And for me, it's not about spying or tracking your user. You can get that anonymized and no problem with it. For me, it's much more being close to how your user talk naturally about your product. And one of the use cases I can think right now is about a product for insurance, where the product was described by the insurance own terms, which were very professional terms, when the user were looking or searching for a very normal term that we will use in Switzerland. And they got that insight by looking at the logs of their chatbots. Otherwise, they would never thought about, hey, actually, those are exactly how our user are talking about our product. So yeah, it's going in the same sense of what you're saying. Any kind of insight that you can collect directly from the user, if it's by asking them directly with a survey pop-up, or maybe a little bit more remote and looking at how they talk about your product, or just analyzing the verbatim associated to your product. Those insights can help you create better content or optimize your content for growth at the end of the day. So yeah, very important points. Overall, don't look at your user through one side of the story. Try to get the whole story through different perspective in order to get something closer from what really happened in the mind of your users. More, yeah, at the end, more perspective. It's always better business decisions. So let's go back to our example. And here, now that we knew about the triangulation framework, we are looking at the data, and we see that actually, in addition of the 3 minute on page, we have the highest number of page visits from our website. We have a good average CTR, so click-through rate, from search engine to the page. People are scrolling to the page, which is very important to understand if they are actually going through the content. There is a high number of back and forth between pages. Okay, that's new. What can we do about that? And looking at all of those insights, we can better assume. So now it's not about is it good or bad content. It's, hey, we believe, and it's still an assumption, we believe our user might be lost. What do we do next? So this is, yeah, for me, the kind of how we implement and think about the framework. It's not just a nice slide, it's something to just get better insight and better business decision at the end of the day. So I think we cover quite in depth the understanding content performance. Now it's time to think about the rework your content. And rework your content is about, okay, now that we have insight and probably nice dashboards, nice report from the different teams in our company, what can we do with that? And for us, it's all about first optimizing. And optimizing is just to make sure that we are not, again, creating new content. It's more about finding what's working and then focusing on that. So first, the good news is optimizing is way easier than just create new content. We see it, and I remember having discussion with some of my clients where they were telling us that the normal workflow to create one single piece of content could take up to a month. When we ask them about optimizing, they say, "Oh, that we can do it right away." And for me, it's was also very interesting because the creating or content is also requiring so much more effort beyond just writing. It's about synchronizing team, getting illustration, and so on, and even pushing the content online. When optimizing is just about making sure everything is in order and making sure that we can take some insights and inject it in the page. That is way faster. Now, there is also ways we can look at it when we should know we should optimize. So, for example, if we have very strong backlinks pointing out to our content page, but there, yeah, the content is not very good. This is a very good sign that you should be optimizing your content. Another way is you have a lot of people clicking on your article, but when they arrive on your page, they just bounce back to the search engine. Another big sign that that's kind of page probably need another cycle of optimization. Again, another insight can be good engagement, but we don't have a clear call to action, so we have a poor conversion rate. Again, same here. It's very good insight that maybe something is not clicking yet on your page. Now, of course, sometimes you will still have to create pages, and this is based on the evolution of how people are searching, and also maybe there is new topics or new question emerging in your industry. So, of course, sometimes you can spot some keyword gap that are always good to get to, and this is probably also a good way that you might think, yeah, I need to create that new piece of content. Another thing is probably you came up with new strategic topic, new ways to cover something about your product. Again, in that case, you don't have to optimize something that you already worked. You just create a new page, and it's completely fine. I'm not, just let's be clear. I'm not saying that you shouldn't create any more content. I'm just saying that most of the time you should be focusing on optimizing it instead of creating it. And once we looked at, okay, what is good to optimize, let's look at what's working. And this is very important because I'm not talking about creating content for users that will be helping them to discover new topics. No, I'm not trying to put that in a context of business irrelevance. Here we are talking about in our business world and where we expect high return on investment. And once we talk about that, we are looking at content that is working, meaning that we are looking at content that can drive business growth. And for that, there is way to look at it. If we are looking at the whole user journey, going from awareness when the user is getting aware about your solution and your product, to the consideration where the user is looking at different kind of product and is looking at the best fit for them, to the finally action when they will get something done. We can also look at that from a keyword perspective. And this is where keyword intents are very important. And what we see is that actually there is also, through that whole journey, there is different intents behind how people search. So for every keyword that you might have on your search console or looking at the different tools that you have to look at the keyword for your website, you can associate keyword intent to them. And this is very important because now, based on those different keywords intent, you can also have a content value. So if you are looking at keyword intent around articles that are mostly informational, these are great for capturing people awareness and making and improving your brand visibility. However, most of those articles will not be very good at converting right away. Another way to look at it is to have some table, for example, where you compare directly product and showing the pros and cons. These are very commercial, transactional driven article where we can expect way much more conversion. And this is where we can see that the value, the more we are down the user journey, the more value of the content is generating. If I may just explaining one example, informational, if we are talking about insurance, for example, can be article about what kind of insurance do I need in my region or in my country. Sorry, it makes sense if you're coming from Switzerland. Maybe not if it's worldwide, but in Switzerland, this is the kind of question we can ask ourselves. When a transactional question will be uh, what is the price or what is the best price for my insurance if I need this kind of service. So as you can see, depending on the kind of question, kind of article, or how you answer these kind of questions, you might have more value or not. So for us, it's about working, and as you can see, the more we are down the user journey, the more impact it will have. And again, we can have different insights. So if it's support business critical topics, this is a very good insight that it will have a big impact on our conversion, but also target action intent keyword. As you guys so everything around transactional or commercial questions will always be more valuable if we can position our brand for those keywords, and also address non-customers needs and objection. I think this one is a very good way to make sure that you can first leverage all the insight you collect from the different calls you can have during sales, but also that you can reuse that kind of insight and make sure that some articles in your journey are answering those kind of objections. Finally, some low business impact, but still important, can be supporting awareness and SEO visibility, or looking at news or trending topic without big business call to action. So, for example, it can be surfing on a news topic or something that a journal published, and you just want to increase your visibility. But yeah, that will not have a direct business impact right away. So if I resume, as you can see, a very simple metrics where we have a way to rank the different content pieces that we want to optimize. First, we are looking at high business impact, low effort, so reworking those transactional, commercial intent kind of article, and then try to focus on still the very big impact article. But if we have to create a new article, it's fine. We can take the time. Reworking, if possible, low business impact or low effort is what I would always put next or down the line or in the backlog, depending on what kind of vocabulary you use. And yeah, that's most of the time how we prioritize content or how to focus on the content.
I have a small comment here.
Yeah.
Sofiane, when we prepared the webinar, I was a bit discussing this slide, you remember? I mean, I totally agree with what you said. I mean, focus on what has a business impact is clear. Optimize first what has a business impact. So as Sofiane mentioned, also often it's bottom of the funnel content, like more commercial, transactional. But also, I mean, we cannot just also avoid the top of the funnel. We all know that top of the funnel, so all the informational queries are now, let's say, replaced, or content is replaced by AI summaries, or people also go on ChatGPT or on Google and they will see an AI overview when they look for information. And we might think that it makes no sense anymore to create content. But I still believe we should also have a small focus on informational content, but having a little twist here. in our informational content, we should also start to include a bit more our brand mentions, because you know that all this LLM will push some brand mentions. And when you take the time and the effort to refresh top of the funnel content, try as well to mention your brand. And by the way, also a bracket here. I don't know if you cover that later in the webinar, but about all the AI search topic. I saw a study recently that I don't have the right number, but I think more than 50% of the articles that were used as a source of the LLM are fresh articles. So basically, article coming from 2025. So also, it's just support what Sofiane was saying. Optimizing content, having refreshed content, having fresh content is really also important for, for the LLM, because they need this new source of information and up to date.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, this is definitely something I will consider if I'm a business and I know I rely a lot on brand visibility in order to improve my funnel and the lead coming from my funnel. This is something I will put in the rework. So rework some content and making sure that you keep it updated. You add some question. You add. Just doing that will have a huge impact, and you can always track that by checking the referee and looking at where do they come from. Do they come from some ChatGPT, Perplexity, or whatever AI search there is trending at the moment? So moving on, the question, once we are introducing this kind of new way to prioritize what we should rework or optimize further, the question coming back is always, what happens if we optimize the wrong thing? And I cannot guarantee that it will be always right. What I can do is saying that based on the insight that we collected through the triangulation framework, that we decided to prioritize some article based on the business impact they will get, and based on that, this is our best list. However, we can always go a little bit deep down and look at A/B testing. So, for example, this is what happened, and we look at our classical article, and now we decide, hey, we don't know why people are not clicking on the button. Maybe we need to make it a little bit stand out a little bit more and go with a dark theme of our page. I don't know if it's a good idea. What I know is that it's something that we can test and get some data and data back information out of it. How? By using A/B testing, where we decide to create two versions of our page, a light version and a dark version. This is exactly the same page, except we change the background colors. Now, what we decide is to show one page to 50% of our population, of the visitors of our website, and the rest, the dark page, to the rest of 50%. That will be random. One person will see one kind of page, the other one will see another kind. What is interesting is at the end, we can look at the total conversion from that page, and we can see if there is any differences. In that case, we are realizing that the dark theme is having much more conversion. So 552 conversion against 423. What is interesting is now that we see an uplift between the two versions, and now we are confident that we can move with one version more than the others. And for me, this is a way to get a little bit more confidence when we don't have enough insight, or we don't know, or we feel blocked about something. Because what is even harder to create an article is doing nothing, because we don't know what to do, because we feel paralyzed and we feel that we cannot make the right decision, when sometimes we just need to make a decision and move forward. So we discussed quite in depth about how we understand the content performance through the triangulation framework, and how or which kind of content pieces we want to rework through our metrics to prioritize our content. Now it's time to talk about recycling the content. So let's talk about the third part, which is recycling, redistribute our content. And when we talk about recycling, it's not very sexy. We might think about something around trash, and this is an example of a recycling trash we have everywhere in Switzerland, mostly on the train area. However, I'm always a little bit saddened because I believe recycling can be beautiful and it can give you some very nice output. And this is, for example, an example of how recycling coffee cups can give something beautiful like a watch. And I love to have always this image when I think about recycling. It can be beautiful, and if we do it right, it can give a much better output that we can ever imagine. So let's try to do the same for our content. So, how many times do you recycle a piece of content? This is a question I ask all the time to our clients when we meet them. And most of the time, they just answer once, between once and 5 times. And then I ask, but what do you do next with the content? They say, oh, yeah, it's here, it's online, people can always get it, and it's fine like that. I think this is one of the most unused opportunity we have when we talk about content, which is just distributing or just recycling one piece of content once. And I actually reused one of the slides. So if you've been to our presentation or if you've been to the first webinar, I think, 3 months ago now, you might have seen this slide. And I think now was the right time to recycle it. So I reused it exactly the same. I think it was from you, Samuel. So always good to think about, hey, I created something, now let's repurpose it, reuse it, and even amplify it if possible. And that is very interesting because one piece of content can be distributed almost infinitely if we are looking at how we can put it through different formats or distributing through different channel. And there is plenty of different channel that we can think of. So let's take an example. First, looking at the formats, we know that most users or most clients or most people, most human at the end of the day, not talking about AI right now, most people are visual consumers, 40% of the audience. However, some people like to read text and they will be delighted by reading a long piece of content. If you are a visual consumer, you might have just look at the pictures, and if you are triggered, maybe read some paragraph. And actually, there's also people who love to watch videos, like myself. I love to watch those videos, and I think it's easier for me to learn something new through videos. What I'm trying to say here is not that video should be more important. What I'm saying is there's plenty of different kind of audience who like to consume different kind of formats, and creating one piece of content on your blog or on your website might deliver value for some kind of audience, but not all of them. So maybe we can reuse that exact same piece of content and redistribute or reformat it into different ways. So it can become a video, for example, where you just explain your article in much depth, and you have some B-roll in order to illustrate it. Or it can be a slide presentation that you upload on your social media in order to have a slide banners post. Once we rework different formats, there is also the different channel that we can use. Like we said, the most common one when we will talk about content, it will be through the company blog. However, it can be also LinkedIn post. And we don't have to stay here. We can also look at newsletters. Those three channels will be the most used by most businesses. However, it's not rare that one business is not even doing it are distributing it through the three channel already. If we want to go further, we can look at company blogs can be also republished with partners. It can be shared within networks or industry companies. LinkedIn posts can be about social media, and here we can look at also maybe recycling the post into a Reddit conversation, or maybe adding it to some forums if we answer some very specific questions. And finally, email newsletter, it can be around the topic, or it can be just a link into the classical newsletter we send every month. So there is plenty of channel and there is plenty of format we can always use and reuse. So in 2026, scaling content is not about just creating content and publishing it once. It will be about making sure that one idea can be distributed through different topics to different audience. So exactly taking what is the best interest for me and adapting it to a different audience, but also through different intents, making sure that we are looking at the whole journey and not just one part or one intent at a time. And through the different stage of the funnel, through different channels that we want to do, and finally also looking at the whole process if we are looking at how we create content.
Sofiane, sorry, just there is only 13 minutes left, so
yes,
a lot of slides and also two case studies that you wanted to share. So yeah.
Yes. So let's go through the key takeaways. So, like we said, publishing is just the beginning. Don't stop there. Optimizing is where the real growth happens and where we are getting the real value for our investment at the end for the businesses. We don't want to look at just one source of data. We want to always triangulate it, but also optimize content that is already existing instead of creating new ones. We want to recycle, repurpose content infinitely if possible. And thing that you can already do today is gather new insights. So let's take your blog page and look at your page and try to get new insight, not just from your analytics, but also from maybe your search console, maybe how people are commenting or sharing your article on social media. And you can rework up to 5 pieces of content quite fast. And you will see that in the use case how we kind of prioritize it and did it for one of our clients. And finally, once you did that, you can think about recycling or redistributing a new piece of content already. So just take one piece of content, challenge yourself to recycle it, and you will see you will come up with so many ways to republish it and share it with your audience. Moving on. So now it's time for the use cases. I will just start right away. So first, I will show you the use case with Swiss Bank. So one of our clients, and they had, the problem I already talked about. They had a lot of content, and they were still creating new content daily. So they have a team dedicated to create content, and they are spending every day trying to create new piece of content based on so many different topics. And on average, to take an idea to the final version published on the website, it takes a month. So we are not talking about publishing something very quickly. Here, it's a real team effort, and it's passed through different people just to get online and posted on the blog post. They have a team of writers, editors, and for their website content. So yeah, we are not talking about one person doing that as a hobby inside that company. And once we talk about how do we optimize the process, they had no idea where to start. They've been doing that for ages. The person before them were doing that, and it all started by, hey, let's digitalize every piece of content we have on our brochures into the new thing that's called internet. And now, 20 years later, they have, like I said, more than 1,000 pages just for content on their website. So we discuss with them, we look at different user journey, we create this user journey, we look at the different question people were asking, and we had a lot of exchanges where we discussed with them all the implication of bring that new piece of our content, or how to reuse and recycle their content. At the end, we just gave them this, a table where we said that for one specific page that they will have, we are optimizing for one specific keyword that we believe is driving some business, and we are not looking at keywords that are on brand. So they have they had already quite some traffic. They are a big bank in Switzerland, and they had traffic, they had views, they had visibility. What we were trying to do as a challenge in order to improve the business impact is not focusing on what they already do as a branding or as a visibility. We were trying to expand on specific keyword that will drive revenue. So these were the good keyword. We said, okay, this is where we believe there is business impact and potential to drive some conversion. And we also define how we will prioritize it, because if we give them that long list, they don't know where to start. So we say, hey, based on actually the search volume, the impact that it can have on business, and the content type of edits, this is what should come first. And through that table, they could give it to their editors and writers and start optimizing and start bringing new piece of content, new ideas, but also redistributing and reshaping the piece of content they already had. And that had a big impact, because at the end, on their most converting page, they increased by 30% the SEO traffic on that page. So yeah, it took some time, it took some efforts, but at the end, the impact was so big that they were super satisfied, and they asked us to continue to challenge them regarding SEO and content in general. If I may, I will go to the second use case, and after that, I will try to with Samuel to answer all your question, which is about how do we again optimize a website, and this is much more about uh, uh, being stuck, as you will see for this Swiss insurance. Every time they wanted to do something, a new features, a new implementation on their website, it will take on average up to 6 months. And same, they first had to define the business case, then to define the specification, implement the specification, test them for quite some time, and then push them that live, which is very difficult, because once they will start to decide, okay, we should optimize the website, they felt stuck, because they were like, I don't know if this optimization is worth investing 6 months of our time in order to see any kind of impact. And if you know a little bit on how the insurance business work in Switzerland, you know that 80% actually of the business happens between October and November. So you have 2 months where 80% of your business takes place. And if you are trying to optimize something, you're trying to either optimize it before, or trying to delay as much as possible in order to don't have any negative impact during this period. And another interesting aspect regarding this project is they had a lot of ideas, and they knew what they wanted to do, but it was so complicated to implement. So this just stay stuck. And we started to with them to implement a new culture of experimentation and trying to test new things. So we started with a very simple one. That was our first recommendation for our playbook, which is, hey, let's just start with new sticky buttons. And that was a way for them to test the process, but also see if there is any impact. And here we are talking about data inside that we're confirming that actually those two new sticky buttons on mobile could increase the conversion of the calculator by 17%, but also by increasing the number of people booking a consultation by 35%. And those are not small numbers. Those are a number that our stakeholders could take and have a real discussion then with their C-level people at the entrance to discuss how do we implement that urgently. Another case we had with them, and I think it was amazing because it was one of their C-level idea. So one of the, I think it's the CPO had that idea of having a banner that will redirect people directly on the price calculation in order to increase conversion. However, they had no way to prove that beforehand or to implement it in the way fast enough just to make sure it will be validated in time. What we did is, again, another A/B testing. So we send 50% of the audience to a page without banner, 50% of the audience to a page with a banner, and we look at the results. And same here, we got lucky because we got another positive result with plus 7% conversion and up to 10% conversion on mobile for that business. And we know that, yeah, when we have those money time, so very compacted money time where every business improvement, any improvement on the website have business impact, this is kind of a good way to move forward with your business. So before we move to the QA.
Thanks, Sofiane. Just really interesting use cases. Also, these two use cases show two things about optimizing content. On one side, for the Swiss banks, you were working more on the content to drive traffic, and so that their page about loan was ranking really well. So you work, I guess, on the text and on the on the optimization of the semantic of the page. And the second use case was more about user experience, how to optimize the user experience when people are already on page to increase conversion. So these two aspects are really important, driving people to your page. And then once they're on your page, they can take action. So you really well illustrated what refreshing content means, I think. And yes, before moving to QA, we only have 2 minutes, so it will be just one question. But if you can click on the next slide, Sofiane. So yes, as I said, we have more videos on YouTube about this series. So I invite you to go on VASS YouTube channel, and you can have a look at our previous content about how an insurance company, by the way, is orchestrating its publication. And also, if you're looking for a new tool for next year, check what Adobe Edge Delivery Service can do for you. And now, I think it's the last slide. So we have 1 minute, Sofiane. People are start to leave. So thanks again, Sofiane. Just can you stop sharing your screen? And
yes, of course.
right, let's say, I mean, there's a lot of things to do when you explain your framework about collecting data from Search Console, collecting data from also on page and different source of data. I mean, even though some companies are big, sometimes marketing team or content team are still small. What should be your recommendation if now they want to get started tomorrow? What could be a, let's say, quick win or easy steps to get started?
Yes. So for me, the quick win is to take your most visited or most valuable article, and for that you can look at your analytics, or maybe you can look at the conversion coming from those article. But the main idea is to rework those articles and making sure that they are ready for the future. So already reworking them a little bit will help, but adding some new sources or reformatting them for being snackable for AI search will already have an impact tomorrow, because we know that yeah, as soon as we update those articles that are already indexed, already ranking, those new article will already be super helpful for your business and show some ROI quite fast.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, you don't need maybe to start fast. Select the top 3 pages on your website. You can identify easily your top 3 pages. We work them, and then obviously we are happy to help you to set up this framework and also to automate all the acquisition of the data, to compile that in a report where that can tell you in real time which article you should focus on if you want to refresh. All right, Sofiane. Yeah, thanks, Daria.
Daria.
Thanks, Daria. Yeah, we have to close the webinar now. It's already 1 hour. Thanks for watching us. And as I said, we will do more content next year. But now it's very soon Christmas holidays. So I wish to all of you a nice end of the year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Cheers.